Hey there, real estate pros, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into the key moves and trends really shaping the market right now. We're aiming to spot those crucial opportunities and shifts for everyone working in this fast-paced world.
Exactly. And for this, we've gathered market reports, real estate news from various locations,
Yeah.
basically getting a full picture.
Yeah, a really wide view. So what's on the agenda today?
Well, we'll break down some vital info. We'll look at Palm Beach's growing appeal for wealthy Californians, for starters.
Okay.
Then we'll examine the current state of rental prices across the U.S., with a special focus on Miami, and dig into a pretty major luxury development happening in Key Biscayne.
Right, I saw something about that. And we're also covering the moves Zillow and eXp Realty are making towards more transparency in listings.
That's right. Plus, weighing up the buy versus rent dilemma in, well, hyper-competitive New York City.
Always a hot topic.
And we'll explore the impact of the new Grand Hyatt coming to Miami Beach, and also look at how population shifts, rural versus urban, are affecting property values.
Okay, quite a bit to cover. We'll also touch on an exclusive LA property listing and valuation trends in majority Hispanic neighborhoods.
So whether you're in investment, sales development, or just want to stay ahead of the curve, this analysis should give you a clear perspective on what's happening and maybe where things are headed.
Perfect. Let's dive in. So first up, Palm Beach. It seems to be pulling in more and more attention, traditionally known for wealth, sure, but now seeing a real influx, especially from California. What's driving that based on the reports?
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems to be a mix of factors. Of course, you hear about the tax advantages Florida offers compared to California. That's a big one.
Always is.
But people also mention, the perception of a more relaxed lifestyle and just generally the high quality of life that a lot of affluent Californians are apparently looking for now.
And it's not just whispers, is it? We've seen some pretty high-profile names making the switch, people like Larry Ellison, Harvey Jones, even Sylvester Stallone, right?
Definitely. Some heavy hitters. And it's important to see that this isn't just confined to Palm Beach itself. You've got West Palm Beach undergoing this urban transformation.
Ah, right. The whole Wall Street South idea.
Exactly. Those kinds of ambitious projects create this dynamic ecosystem that really complements Palm Beach's residential appeal. It adds another layer of interest for people looking not just for a home, but maybe business opportunities, a vibrant scene too.
That makes sense. Okay, let's switch coasts, but stick with housing. The national rental market seemed quiet for a bit, but now we're seeing, what? A new push?
That's what the data suggests. The CoreLogic report, which is, a pretty respected source, shows a 2.4% increase in single-family rents nationally. That was January 2025 year over year.
Okay, 2.4%. Not exactly explosive, but...
But it's significant because it actually surpasses the historical average for that time of year. So it does suggest, a reactivation, maybe, in the rental market.
And are there specific areas leading that charge? I think I saw Washington, D.C. and Chicago mentioned.
Correct. Those two cities showed notable increases over the past year. But, and this is a key point for investors, especially down south, if you look at the cumulative growth since 2020, Miami really stands out.
How much are we talking?
A 52% increase in rental prices over that period. That's a number you can't ignore.
Yeah.
It really reflects sustained demand and a very, very dynamic rental market in South Florida.
Wow, 52%. That really does underscore the demand down there. And speaking of demand and high-end exclusivity, that huge Key Biscayne land deal certainly made waves. What's the story there?
Yeah, the $205 million purchase, waterfront land, bought by Terra and Fortune International, two big names in development. It's definitely a major statement about their confidence in the luxury market's future in Miami.
A $205 million bet on ultra-luxury.
Pretty much. And the plans really reflect that. They're talking about an ultra-luxury tower, but with only 56 units.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of the scale and likely the price point.
Very exclusive.
And with Tizet Studio doing the design, Raymond Jungles on landscaping, you can expect top-tier finishes, meticulous detail, the planned amenities pool, gourmet restaurant, spa, much more. They're aiming for a very discerning buyer looking for that exceptional waterfront lifestyle.
And the average price per unit, around $3.7 million, I heard. Definitely a select market segment.
Absolutely. Very niche.
Okay, moving on to something aimed at perhaps building more trust in the market. The collaboration between Zillow and eXp Realty. What's this initiative about?
So this partnership is focused on increasing transparency around property listings. eXp Realty's new policy is basically to publish their listings on the multiple listing service, the MLS, right from day one of public promotion.
Right, the MLS, the database agents use.
Exactly. So for anyone less familiar, getting it on the MLS quickly is key.
And the main goal is wider visibility sooner, right? By getting it on the MLS immediately, eXp listings should also show up faster on popular sites like Zillow and Trulia.
Precisely. The idea is to empower buyers with more complete, up-to-date information right from the start, which, hopefully builds more trust and maybe even speeds up the whole home search process.
Seems like a positive step towards more openness. Okay, let's jump geographically again to the Big Apple, New York City. That age-old question, buy or rent? Seems the answer's getting clearer for many folks there. What are the recent numbers telling us?
Well, the data from Redfin paints a pretty challenging picture for would-be buyers in NYC. Their analysis suggests you need an annual income of nearly $200,000 to afford the average property there.
Wow, almost $200K a year just to buy. And renting isn't exactly cheap either, is it? What's the estimated income needed for an average rental?
For an average rental in New York, they estimate you need an income around $113,000 a year.
Still a hefty sum.
It is. And when you consider typical home prices are somewhere between, say, $750,000 and $825,000, and the average rent in Manhattan is pushing close to $4,500 a month.
Ouch.
Yeah. The takeaway is, for a significant chunk of the population, renting remains the more, let's say, accessible option in New York's current market.
Looks like the dream of homeownership in NYC is getting tougher for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, let's swing back to South Florida, Miami Beach specifically. Some big news on the tourism and development front.
That's right. Construction has officially started on the Grand Hyatt Miami Beach. It was a pretty substantial project for the area, an 800-room hotel, 17 floors, and they're aiming for a 2027 opening.
800 rooms, that's big. And the investment, I saw $392 million plus a $75 million subsidy.
Correct. It's a major investment. The main goal seems to be boosting convention tourism for Miami Beach. It's going to be directly connected to the convention center.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, designed by Arquitectonica, a well-known firm. So the hope is the Grand Hyatt becomes a major economic engine, pulling in more visitors, bigger events, that kind of thing.
Right, energizing the local economy through that convention traffic. Okay, let's zoom out a bit now and talk about population shifts. Rural versus urban areas. How is that dynamic playing out in the real estate market across the country?
Well, we're still seeing that ongoing trend of migration from rural areas towards urban centers. It's largely driven by, the search for better job opportunities, access to more services, and sometimes just that perception of a more dynamic lifestyle in cities.
Are there specific examples that stand out? States or cities seeing big declines or gains?
Mississippi is often cited as one of the states with a more significant population decline. On the flip side, you have cities like Madison, Alabama, experiencing notable growth, partly fueled by investment in the tech sector there.
And the real estate impact. It follows logically, I suppose.
It does. The direct consequence tends to be downward pressure on property values in rural areas with shrinking demand, and conversely, rising property values in those growing urban centers where housing demand is increasing.
A clear link between demographics and property values. Okay, let's head west now. Los Angeles. There's a luxury property listing catching some eyes.
Yes, the Spanish-style mansion formerly owned by actress Helen Hunt. It's in the very exclusive Brentwood neighborhood, and it's listed for just under $15 million.
$15 million. And besides the location and the likely beautiful design, there's some history there too, isn't there? Didn't Greta Garbo live there at one point?
Exactly. That historical connection definitely adds an extra layer of allure, intrinsic value, combines history, architectural design, and that prime location in a really desirable LA neighborhood. Always an attractive mix for the luxury buyer.
No doubt. Okay, finally, let's look at trends in neighborhoods with majority Hispanic populations in the U.S. What are we seeing in terms of property valuation there?
It's actually quite interesting. The total value of homes in these neighborhoods has surpassed the $2 trillion mark. That's a really impressive figure, underscores the economic significance.
That's $2 trillion.
Yeah.
Huge.
It is. But it's also important to note that the rate of growth in home values in these neighborhoods was actually the lowest compared to other ethnic groups recently.
Oh, really? Lower growth. Why is that? Any specific factors analysts point to?
Well, the main theory seems to be price stagnation, or slower growth, in parts of the Sun Belt. A significant portion of the Hispanic population is concentrated there, so if prices level off in that region, it affects the overall average for these neighborhoods.
So slower growth recently, mainly due to regional factors like the Sunbelt cooling off a bit.
That seems to be the consensus. But crucially, this doesn't necessarily mean a lack of future potential. Analysts still see potential for future appreciation, especially in markets within those neighborhoods that might still be considered undervalued. They could see growth as market dynamics shift again.
Got it. So potential still exists, despite the recent slowdown in growth rate. All right, well, that gives us a pretty comprehensive look across the current real estate landscape. We've covered a lot of ground today.
Definitely. From the wealth migration to Palm Beach, the rental market rebound in places like Miami, that big luxury play in Key Biscayne, the transparency efforts, the NYC housing crunch, quite a few significant movements shaping the market.
Yeah, and the impact of population shifts, the new Hyatt, even high-end listings and specific neighborhood trends, lots for professionals to track.
Absolutely. Whether you're an investor, an agent, a developer, hopefully this deep dive provided some valuable insights for navigating, well, what's always a complex and fascinating industry.
So, thinking about everything we've discussed, the question to maybe ponder is this. Considering these market movements and dynamics, where do you see the most significant opportunities for growth and investment right now, both in the markets we touched on today and maybe more broadly?
That's the key question, isn't it? Something to keep thinking about.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next edition with more analysis and perspectives from the world of real estate. Until then.